All right, let's talk about what we've seen on social media this week regarding clicker training. What have we seen this week? Good, bad, ugly.
That's really good because that everybody talks about the science behind it and how it's good, and people say how it's bribery and all these things. But we have experience between us. What did we figure out? 30 years of experience, positive reinforcement, and other. We use as much of the quadrant as necessary. We're not going to get into the quadrant because that's another lesson, but we have lessons on that people can view.
Right.
And we can attach them down in the comments or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess the thing that I saw this week, and it's in a course I'm taking, is the fact that people think because you're using clicker training, positive reinforcement, that the horse is only being extrinsically motivated due to the treat.
Right.
Okay. And that somehow is separate from them ever finding it within themselves to just do it for you, is what they say. Oh, they're just doing it for me.
Right.
We all know, any organism is doing things because it's good for them. Yeah. But they're not doing it because it's good for you. So what we do, and this is what's misunderstood, it's not separate. And for all the years I've been doing it, it transitions. First, you need to get the attention of your learner, motivate them to want to work with you, and figure out what it is that's going to get them the food. Then, once you do enough of that and they have the good manners around it, they're going to start to love doing the work with you, right? Because it's a relationship that you're building. Companion animals, horses, dogs, cats, we've grown up together for thousands of years, right? Humans and these companion animals. So yeah, there's a bond, there's something that's good for both. And yeah, as you're doing your scientific side of it, variable reinforcement, you aren't going to keep them stuck on the treat. You are teaching something that they're going to learn that's connected with you. And, weaning off of the food is necessary. Otherwise, you're going to keep them stuck. And we don't want to do that. Doesn't mean you can't use it. And it doesn't mean it's separate. So I think it moves from extrinsic to intrinsic, meaning getting a treat versus working with you. And that just becomes, it evolves out of it. So that's what I saw this week. And it's hard to say things because you're in a course and you don't want to, teach over the instructor.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you just said a lot, and all of it was great, right? Science aside, right? When we dissect what you just said, which is you said, your horse is going to work because it's motivated by A or B, right? So you're using a positive motivator and someone's telling you that's not great, right? And like the big irony of that is the person who's telling you, oh, your motivation, needs to go away, right? You're just using a positive motivator. They're over here with their whip. What's happening to their motivator, right? They get to always use their motivator, but you don't because they look different. So like, okay. It's like those people who say, I don't want to clicker train because I don't always want to have a cookie in my pocket. Do you not have to get a lead rope and a halter every time you get your horse? Like something's always going to be there. Let's make it positive. Let's make that horse, and look at the proof is in the pudding, right? When the clicker trainers walk into the field, the horses come running, and then the other folks, the horses go running. So, it's
exactly. Yeah, and that's a really good point because halters and lead ropes, management tools, right, to be able to get your animal to move from one place to another safely, but it's all taught through pressure and release because it's sitting on their body, and that's how it's mostly taught. And again, that's probably a whole other conversation on how you teach cues that are related to that. But and that's funny too because in the course the person is using a whip, and that's okay with them. And that brings me to other things I see where almost all Liberty trainers have a whip in their hand. So why is that? They're like, well, it's an extension of my hand. Well, why not just use your hand? Why is it that they need the whip? um, and it's always there. I don't think that there's anybody I've seen recently that doesn't have it. And they probably train with a lot of treats as well. Um, but doing a lot of work in the Liberty area, both of us, it's I stay away from as much pressure cues as I can. If because Liberty means they want to do it and it's fun, and you're not making them do it. It's an opportunity for them to do it with you, for you, what based on your cue or whatever. But
Right.
yeah, so
So yeah, it's hard, right? It's hard to go and do a course and, obviously you're there because you want to get something from it, but it's like that person's ignorance is getting in the way of you even getting anything back. So it's really frustrating.
yeah, and it's brought out every time. So it's kind of, I don't know what it is, but it's a big shift that has to happen. And, I mean, I've been here like doing this for 25 years plus. There's
Yeah.
people who've been doing it even longer. It's not shifting that fast.
No.
I mean, you see a little bit in the media now about, the blue tongues on the dressage horses and, you know, racing horses with broken legs and they, whatever. Horses are being pushed and they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It's like we don't really do that with our other companion animals, but for some reason, and I think it's probably fear-based, people are afraid they can get killed by a 1,000-pound animal more so than a smaller animal. But and that's again really going down the wrong path. You could probably get more injured incorrectly applying pressure and release than using positive reinforcement to train
I would
safely.
100% agree with that. I saw, again, we're just talking about social media. I saw a video this week. And I will say, actually, I'm at a fork in the road. I want to talk about two things. So the opposite of what happened to you has recently happened to me. When I was working with Saphira on her hooves, that was a pretty public process, and that's fine. But I had someone reach out to me who's a fellow positive reinforcement trainer, which is great. But like she would go out of her way to find me on different platforms. I'd get a comment on TikTok, I'd get a PM on Facebook. And this person was essentially like, I think they were coming from a good place, I think. But they were like, telling me I was doing it all wrong and that they had a better way. And so eventually I was like, okay, I'll bite. What's your magic way? What am I doing wrong? Like, let's see how you would do it. So this person proceeds to make a video explaining exactly what I was already doing. And I was like, wow, thank you so much. Like sometimes the clicker training crowd can be like a little too holier than thou and almost a little toxic. And so that often also pushes off new people because they're like, oh, these people are freaks. And and we have to be careful to be welcoming and helpful and educational without being off-putting. Because if we want people to make a change, if we want people to shift and see, we can't be mean girls. We just can't be, off-putting about it.
Right. Yeah, that's the opposite of, the positive reinforcement. You don't only want to do it with animals, you have to do it with your people too,
Right.
because that's who we really want to reach, and that way you're going to impact more animals too, right? If you get to a person and they have so many horses or dogs or cats in their life, they're going to be spreading the most beneficial things for their pets. So,
Yes.
but yeah, there's just so much out there. I don't know. For myself, like we were talking earlier about, if you're teaching something and somebody's teaching something slightly different, and then you start to get, like you said, you let that person explain to you instead of saying, well, my way's better, my way's better. Everybody, and I always like try to see if there is something better, which is why I take courses, but I'm almost tempted not to anymore because I'm not going to really impact anybody, because if you say something in a course, you're probably going to get shut down, you know. So it's like we have to do things like this. That's why we're doing this, everybody, not to slam any course people or anything, but just to make it known that if you are in a situation and you're not sure, you know, you should probably reach out to more people or people like us, you know, who are open-minded. It's not like we don't know the negative reinforcement side of horse training, which is still the most popular. That we do understand that and the science and why that works and why positive reinforcement works too. Yeah, but I think that, you know, your point really that people are just so used to seeing people with halters, lead ropes, whips, and not wanting their horse to do anything unless their horse is asked.
Yeah.
That, you know, that's what is the right thing to do. And, you know, it's worked for all these years. So of course, new people will probably feel, why not let it work for me? But it's not in the best interest of the horse. It is not in the best interest. So,
and it reminds me that video that I was talking about that I saw. So I think people are slowly waking up to it. I don't think it's fast enough. But like, for example, you said, you know, we've seen halters and lead ropes forever. I think people have also gotten not only used to it, but kind of entertained by it. Like those Bucky colt starting videos, you know, those explosive trailer loading videos. People are, you know, they're used to it and they're like, wow, this is exciting. Versus when you see really quiet horse training, people are almost bored by it, but like, that's what it should be. It should be so boring because that means the horse isn't stressed. And, you know, we need to start equating really interesting videos or interesting, exciting stuff to like, hey, that horse is really struggling. I saw a video this week. Oh my gosh, it was horrible on TikTok. I don't think it was a Mustang. I just think it was a younger horse. They were trying to get it on this trailer and they had, you know, put the corral pens up to the trailer and they had him on a lunge line. And I believe they were, you know, flagging him from the back and this horse was just rearing, and they're trying to pull him in. And I was like, I couldn't help but comment. I was like, that horse is going to get sent over the panels. Like, you're not helping this horse. You're not training this horse. You're building such a negative, traumatic experience. Like, walk away and put a bale of hay in that trailer and let him walk in. And in the comments, you know, it used to be that I was like the odd one out, or you didn't see a lot of comments. But you see it now. You see people saying, hey, that's too much. That horse is struggling. You need to try something different, give it a break, whatever. So I think it's gaining traction, but like you said, it's not fast enough and it's not on the higher levels. It's just, you know, us little lonely, weird barn girls.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are people out there who have courses in it and that, but it's hard to know which is the right one, I think, for most people. And, you know, that's kind of why I try them out myself, and that why we have some courses of our own that we're starting to put together. And again, it's really for people to learn why things work. So what's out there and why it works, and the importance of the welfare of the horse or whichever animal you're working with. So you want to do things that are, like you said, not pushing the envelope, not going over threshold, not scaring them into doing it, or getting them into learned helplessness, which again is, you know, part of the scientific side of it. But that was like the video I mentioned earlier about something scary and the horse doesn't want to go past it. So they lunge the horse past it and push the horse past it and push the horse past it, even though it's rearing up or backing away. There's the added pressure to say, you must go around. And eventually the horse does and goes and sniffs. But what kind of trauma is built in there? Number one, the association to the handler, association to the bike, association to the whip or whatever they're using, those are going to stay with them. Why? Because scientifically, things that are learned out of fear are really ingrained. Those are hard to get rid of. So you're not helping your horse by using these traditional, and these could be young trainers, they're just brought up traditionally, and it's not in the best interest of the horse. It's just the human wanting to get it done, thinking they're doing the right thing, people saying, bravo, you did such a great job, and I'm cringing, for the sake of that horse. There's so many other ways to teach that in a positive way. So there's positive association with the handler, with the lead rope, with the object or whatever it is. So
You you really see that with your horse. Like, I know we got Josie and Sadie really, really around the same time. When I first started going to Ride City, because I lessoned on her for a while before I bought her, I would go into the field to catch her, and she was in with 10 to 12 mares. She would see the halter and run from me. She would weave her way into the middle of the mares, and I'd try to get in there, and they're kicking, and I was terrified. I would, get help to get her right. And now she sees my car coming down, and she runs to the gate. Like, they really truly do have those associations.
And again, you want to say something. That's the problem with social media, is you want to say something, but it really just gets into arguments with people. So, I'm always kind of more an advocate of, like, if you want to say something, say your own thing, and, go out there and share it, and see if that's the best way. It's pointing at what isn't good, even though we're talking about that. We know that's really not the way to make a change in the long run for people and their horses. So, but these are things that you have to kind of talk about. That's why we have each other in this podcast to let it all out, so that it gets some kind of benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that's a huge thing, and I need to work on it myself. I've been working on it, because when I see those videos, I'm thinking of the horse, and I'm like fire typing. Oh my God, yikes on a bike, dumpster on fire. But how's that going to help the person, right? They're just going to be like, right? So I'm really working on more gentle, positive delivery, because I'm not going to change anybody's minds by just, snuffing out their little fire. So
yeah, the one thing that brings to mind, which is something we can do, whenever we see videos that, make us cringe, is that can motivate us to create a video another way, so that people see it, whether they see it or not. The fact that we saw that video, if we post something, the way social media is, probably some people will start to see the opposite world, which, and everybody thinks their way's best. So that's another reason where, if you blah, blah, blah against somebody's video, they think they're the best. So what you say, they're always going to poo-poo that. So I think it's better to just demonstrate. For instance, that one, here's the way that is trained, which we don't agree with. Right. And then, here you can get the same results without the negative baggage, I guess, that could happen with your horse, because you don't really know. You can't talk to them and say, how do you feel about that training? You can observe their behavior. You can see their eyes, their ears, their mannerisms, to know if, that's going well for them or not.
Agreed. Yeah, we could do that. We'll start doing some positive spin-offs, because the algorithm is showing the same folks the same stuff. And so if someone who sees that and then sees a better version, that person might be open-minded and willing to try something new. So I think that's a really great idea.
Yeah, like for that one, but could be how to get your horse to walk past a scary object safely and happily.
I have that video, Scary Things Day, right? I have that video. And then I also have a video where at your place, where I set up that little chute, and I taught Sadie to front load and back load at Liberty, so that because we were going to start going on a single, straight load with a friend, and I wasn't sure. So we have some clips, and I know you've got all kinds of good stuff. So we can throw some clips in at the end here.
I think that's the best way to channel feelings of, disappointment in what you see, is make something positive out of it, because that's kind of where we're coming from with a lot of things. So everything. Sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Right. So we'll wrap this one up. We'll include some clips. We'll, take this idea forward. We'll make some positive spin-off videos for a future episode.
Yes.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Well, this was
all right. Bye.